You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. Live from the North Wales coast, it's time for your host, Stu Palmer!
My guest today for episode 106 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast is none other than owner and promoter of the LWF, the Lancashire Wrestling Federation, Ste Bibby.
Hey, Stu, do I always have to be here in the tux doing these shows?
I haven't paid you being this far, and we've run 106 now, Mike.
Can I go home?
If you have to, mate, but you have to be here when I need you.
I've been here for every episode.
At my beck and call.
I've done 106 introductions.
You sure have.
It's Stu's Wrestling Podcast!
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's time. Your host, Stu Palmer!
Mind if I tag along? Could you just take some time on me? I don't want to cause alarm, but I can't remember how to feel. Would you take me back? Would you take me home? I need a human touch, it's not my own.
A warm welcome. It is episode 106 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast. Did you like that with myself and Mike Angus yet? We did some post-commentary on Monday, so he was like, right, can we do this? So yeah, we did that little clip there. But yeah, moving on to today's episode. It is Ste Bibby, owner, founder of the LWF, the Lancashire Wrestling Federation. And we talk about his latest show, which is happening tomorrow, Saturday the 12th, which is Marching On, a huge event in Chorley in the Manchester, Lancashire area. So it's great to speak to him about that. We also talked about him setting up the company, the way they promote, the way they do their shows. They're very heavily story driven. So it's cool to see how he does that, how they go about it. I love speaking to promoters because it's very hard to do. And we also talked about him watching the WWF in the 90s, in the early 90s. Then there was a period where he didn't watch it. But into the late 90s, he began watching it again. So it's some great chat about that. And we also talked about football. He is an avid Manchester United fan. He had a season ticket for 13 years, as you'll hear in due course. And we also talked about my beloved Everton as well and the struggles they're facing in the relegation zone. So without further ado, my guest for episode 106 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast is the owner, founder of the LWF, the Lancashire Wrestling Federation. It's Mr. Ste Bibby. Enjoy. My guest from Chorley in Lancashire, about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes away from here in Wales. It is promoter and owner of Lancashire Wrestling Federation, the LWF, Mr. Ste Bibby, on the show today on Stu's Wrestling Podcast. How are we, Ste?
Pretty good. Tired, but ready for another week. So, nothing wrong with being overworked.
Are you full on now? Obviously, shows are back. I know you ran shows last year after the uncertainty with COVID. So yeah, is that why you're tired? All that going on.
We're doing a show a month now, so it's once one's finished, it's straight on to the next one.
Who's coming up? That's what I want to ask. Who's on the next shows?
Well, we've got our next show is March 12th, and it's Marching On. And it's going to be our champion, Reynaldo, teaming with the number one contender, Sona Durson, in a tag match against the Merseyside Mercenary Squad. That's the main event. Part of the double main event, because our new women's champion, Jenny B, will team with Aurora Tebas to take on Helena Razor and Lana Austin. So that's the two main events for that show.
Fantastic,
so
Steve. I'm obviously aware of them from some of the guys from commentating for Superstar Pro. So, yeah. Fantastic. Who else is on the card, should I say?
The card is... There's an awful lot of tag team contests on this card. We've got obviously the double tag main event, but we've got tag team championships on the line as well. We've got the Wrecking Crew taking on the Blazing Guns. And we have the Castle Cup tournament begins. That's basically, if you want to sort of make it relatable, it's like the King of the Ring tournament for us, bringing through the next stars. Castle Cup is the first thing that we ever introduced as a prize, and the quarterfinals of that take place on that night, and that'll feature a lot of our academy talent as well as some from outside promotions and training schools as well.
Fantastic concept as well, having that on over the one night, mate. I'm a I'm a great proponent of the old King of the Ring format. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Which venue are you at for the show as well? Just for the listeners, so they know if they're in the locality or they want to travel.
We're at Buckshaw Village Community Centre. It's a popular venue for us. And in terms of travelling to it, the railway station is like a minute outside. It's like just across the road. So it's very easy to navigate from there. Very nice venue. And we can fit around 200 people in there, and we often do hit that. So yeah, it's worth getting a ticket quick, really.
Fantastic,
I think.
Fantastic stuff, Steve. You know, there's that many promotions in the UK now, but it's a fantastic time in the same token, isn't it? Especially for you guys.
It really is. And I mean, you said all over the UK, certainly. And I mean, I can only vouch for the Northwest at the moment, but I know it's going on elsewhere. And I've said before now, I think this is our era. And I think we'll sort of look back at it and be very proud of what we've contributed to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait. I will have to come to a show. I know, obviously, now you all want a month. There's no excuses. You know, if I plan ahead, I will come to a show. I promise you. I promise you that, because obviously I've seen matches and stuff on the socials.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, there's always space. We sort of embrace that kind of involvement as well, because it only benefits both of us, really.
Absolutely. How about setting up the LWF? Let's go right back now. The inception of the LWF with Ste Bibby and how it came about. What was the genesis of the LWF?
Well, I always feel a bit strange saying this, because but the LWF was an accident, really. I just wanted to be a commentator. That was my dream job. And I took some work in across the Pennines in Yorkshire, and I met a few people. And I thought, well, there seems to be a gap in Lancashire where I am, where there's nothing. We had promotions in Manchester, in Wigan, in Preston, and Morecambe, but in between there didn't seem to be anything. So I sort of rounded up a bunch of guys. I rang around to find some people that would be experienced enough to train. And I built the school off about 12 people, and it's sort of grown from there. We had our first show in April 2018, and it has got bigger and bigger since then. And certainly since we've come back from lockdown as well, we hit the ground running there. But it has been very gradual. The slogan is from the ground up, because that is literally exactly what it is. We've worked this from nothing, from no budget. And it's a real personal success story.
Fantastic, mate. You know, it takes, I look at you promoters and you setting up, you know, the financial burden starting out and all that. You know, you've got to have a business head for it, haven't you? You know, yeah. I appreciate you are. I think you're just like downplaying it, you know. Honestly, it takes a lot of cojones to do it, mate. It does, you know.
I struggle with anything to do with legalities, figures, numbers. I've never been any good at that. This has been really, I've had to force myself to try and understand it and do it in my own way, so I'm not overloading my own head. And I try to soak up as much advice as well from anybody I possibly can, because I'm not naive enough to think that I can do this myself. So yeah, I'm still learning now. Still learning. I've still got a lot to go. I'm probably on about 40% at the moment.
Fair play. No, fair play to you, mate. Honestly, I could only dream. The only booking and promoting I did was on the N64 and the PlayStation. That's about the extent of it, mate. Playing No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. Even further back, actually, before we had the modes. I had the Royal Rumble for the Mega Drive and all that. But I'm not just, you know, licking backside here. I truly mean it. You know, you promoters, you deserve it, because it's everything that goes with it. You know, there's so many curves,
a lot of it on my own. I certainly do. I certainly have help. You know, I do take on a lot myself, but that's purely because at the moment the business isn't big enough for me to start employing people here, there, and everywhere.
Of course.
But I've, like, a person who's very important to the day-to-day running of it, certainly in the booking sense, is Mikey Fitzgerald. He's a very, very talented and creative booker. So he's sort of my right-hand man at the moment. So I don't do everything on my own, but I like the fact that you made reference to the N64, because I used to do that with Attitude on the PlayStation. I used to create a pay-per-view. Absolutely. And I would make my own stories, and I'd write my stories down in notebooks for WrestleMania 2000 and N64, and I'd play them out on screen.
It was amazing, wasn't it, when we were younger, like, you know, what we had. And they're my favourite games, the N64 ones, still to this day. Incredible, incredible, mate. So, yeah.
Definitely.
That's cool. But yeah, so you don't struggle with delegating then? Obviously, you're saying you've got people around you. The delegation's not a factor? You're quite happy to do that? Or do you need to have it on a tight leash?
Well, one of the things I've found, which if you run something properly, people will always offer to help. And I've got a lot of my guys will always say, is there anything you need? Is there anything you need me to do? Sometimes it's just not possible for me to let them do it because I've got too much of the material I have here with me, and it would take a lot to try and get it across to them. And so I tend to take on the majority, but I do have people I can go to for if I need some graphics doing, or if I need sort of a piece of documentation looking over, or something printing out, something as simple as that. People are always there to help, and even that stretches to show day as well with the merch and the catering. People will come in and voluntarily help. So delegating isn't a problem because I've found that if you do things the right way, that the people will come to help you.
Sense of community there as well.
Yeah.
To me, that's. Do you know what I mean? You hear some bad stories, don't you, within the business? A lot of backstabbing, but it's good to see you got loyal people in and around you, Ste.
Yeah. That's been the most important part for me. The core is that we do have loyalty in there. We've got a lot of wrestlers that have come through and then taking bookings now as a result of what we've done for them. So it's you're building those foundations, but also they will keep you up for as long as forever. You know, in the long run, I think.
How were you through the pandemic? You know, the peak of the pandemic, not able to do anything. How were you mentally? You know, because you've been active with the promotion from 2018 onwards. So how was that for you personally? Did you cope with it, not being able to run shows, or was it hard for you?
Well, I've never been shy on talking about that front, but mentally it wasn't particularly good. I struggled because I think I was never happy with where we were training. I thought it was inadequate, and I wanted somewhere that was more suited to the ideas I had. And we obviously struggled with that at the beginning. We ended up having to leave our facility at 2 months after lockdown started because we couldn't afford to stay there. Then we pitched camping in a motel for a few months, just trying to get anything we could. Like if we could do a session with limited people and restrictions in place, we would. But we were very grateful for the space, but we needed somewhere permanent and somewhere that I could call a home. I worked quite hard to get us the grants from the government at the time, to which I got, and I used that money to put towards our training school now, which is in Coppell, and where we will probably be staying for the foreseeable. So I couldn't afford to drop too low because there's too much work done, and there was too many wrestlers and people that relied upon us to keep their own mental health strong and their own goals intact. So I couldn't really go, well, this is it. I'm sorry, guys, I've had enough. But I had enough support, and we've got through to the other side of that. But yeah, mentally, it was a very, very trying time because uncertainty is one of the most terrifying things, I believe.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that as well. No personal experience. I appreciate you sharing that with myself and obviously the listeners and viewers who are going to watch or listen to this. So yeah, no, thank you for that. And it's good that, good that the grants were available for yourself as well. I'm sure that took a lot of burden off you.
What it did is it's a weight off the shoulders. It's something you can go, right, now I've got something in place. I've got to use it wisely. I didn't want to go out there and spend it on stupid things when I knew that the most important thing was finding a home for us. But it is like you said, on the mental side of things, you've got to be in the right frame of mind to use that money wisely or to fight to get those funds. And there were a lot of times, and again, it's no secret with a lot of people. I did want to quit for a lot of it because I thought it'd be stress off me. I'll sell everything I have got and I'll try and get on with my life. But it would have felt like a waste.
Absolutely.
So I think that's why I carried on. Really,
wrestling's a part of you, man, and I'm glad you stuck with it as well.
Yeah, it's been very rewarding since. So.
Absolutely. How was it being a part of TNT Extreme Fields? Now, I came up to you at the show, but I was a little bit pie-eyed because I was on two beers at a time that day. Got to 3 o'clock, thinking it was night time, but yes, I was in a bit of a state. But yeah, the LWF were Extreme Fields along with some other promotions. So how was that? How was that being at Electric in Liverpool? It was fantastic.
That was a great experience. Well, speaking of, I mean, it was pretty much night from the moment we walked in there because you're in that little dark venue.
I made that mistake. I made that mistake with the beers.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a brilliant experience. We were sat next to Odyssey Pro Wrestling all night as well. They were good friends of ours.
Fantastic promotion.
And it was just nice to be able to meet and network and showcase a little bit. I mean, I want to do it. I'd love to do something like that again. I'd jump at the chance immediately. And there's a lot of pride involved in going to things like that, both in your own promotion and the fact that you're recognised enough to be there. And it was a wonderful. They've got to do that again. It's such a great idea. The combination of the music and the wrestling. I don't know why that's not been done more often. Certainly to that level, like an all-day thing. Absolutely. Because you can fit so much into that day.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I enjoyed Cam Solus and Elijah. That match was that's the one that was before I got absolutely pie-eyed. But yeah, that was the match of the day for me. That was incredible performance from both guys, and had a bit of everything.
Well, we just had Cam actually at the last couple of shows. Did a great job in tag competition. He's always very reliable. And worth the money, I think.
What a hotbed of talent in the Northwest as well. And it's absolutely amazing how many people are from the Northwest now coming through and established people as well, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, what I try and do, I think I try and have a mixture on our show. If we've got a couple of green guys that haven't done as much work, I try to bring in the more established people to try and work with them so that they get something from it. And that's how you build the next established stars by giving them that experience. And I think a lot of promotions are doing that. And that's why you're getting so much good talent coming through.
Absolutely. Now, so you personally now, growing up watching wrestling, just going to come away from the LWF for a little bit. I'd like to know when you first started watching wrestling, what you gravitated to, what pulled you in as a youngster.
It's another bit of a crazy story. This I started watching it when I was very young because my hero was the Ultimate Warrior when I was a kid. I was just fascinated by the rope shaking and the colours and the tassels and everything. It was just you can't help but be drawn to that as a child because it's like a superhero. I was always a Warrior guy over Hogan. I don't think it was just a look.
Warrior. It was Warrior for me, Steve. Warrior for me as well. When you were younger, you didn't realise it. It was the character, wasn't it? More so than what he was doing in the ring. But yeah, sorry, I've jumped in. But I was a Warrior guy like yourself.
And that was my early days. I was also a very, very big Bret Hart fan.
Greatest of all time.
Going back to his battles with Owen. That's my first earliest memories of him with those matches with Owen Hart. And I sort of stopped for a while. And I don't know why. My parents were never all that keen on me watching it when I was younger. So I went through to my football days and everything, and then I sort of forgot about wrestling for a while. And then I ended up in hospital for a couple of weeks with quite a bad sort of infection. And I was sat in the ward, and there was these two young lads opposite watching wrestling on the TV. And they just wheeled the TV over because it was on a stand. It was one of the old-fashioned tellies. And they wheeled it over to my bed, and they sat on the end of the bed. And I was like, what the hell is Vince McMahon doing in a cage match? He was commentating the last time I watched. I was like, how is he a wrestler? Because I always remember him being the guy on the mic with the bow tie. And then it was St. Valentine's Day Massacre we were watching.
It was 99 February.
Yeah. So then I go from watching Warrior and Bret and everything in that era to then seeing The Rock and Mankind destroy each other in a last man standing match. And I was just fascinated, and that's how I got back into it for the long haul. And I was always fascinated by the commentary and Jim Ross's voice, and that's why I wanted to be one myself.
Absolutely. I can relate to the commentary aspect. Absolutely. I wanted to be a football commentator as a kid. But, you know,
No, I used to commentate to my PlayStation games all the time.
Yeah. And I'd be waiting for my door. I'd be waiting for my door to go, like my old man or my mum coming up the stairs. And, you know, you just wouldn't say anything. You were embarrassed.
Shut up, yeah.
I can relate to that, mate. Cause I do it playing Championship Manager, Football Manager back in the day. I do commentary. Mad. Yeah. Mad to think that's what we did.
Do their head in. I used to commentate on our games while we were playing them, and they'd be like, "Will you shut up?" No, I can't. I've got to do it.
Were you more so? Are you more fond of the Attitude Era or more like the Golden Era? If I was to ask you that, and you know, had your little time away, but you'd seen it at two different periods with that break in between.
I loved the Attitude Era purely because, and I know there's a lot of things that weren't great about that era. That sort of obviously the use of the women and everything wasn't great, and the wrestling quality wasn't exactly massively high, and they did have some ridiculous stories. But what I loved about the Attitude Era was the structure and the feeling that it was all happening there and then, and it was real and it was raw. I can't sort of my falling out with commercial, like mainstream wrestling now, is based upon the fact that it just seems to be segmented into slots on a heavily advertising, marketing, promotional based program rather than the content. So back then, Raw would start with a promo at the beginning, probably with the McMahons or someone like that, and then it would lead to a match in the middle of the night, which would probably end in a screwy finish. So then another one would be made backstage, and you felt like it was an episode flowing from start to finish. It was just all woven together, and I loved how every week when I turned Raw on, I didn't know what was coming, and I was fascinated by it. And I think that's why I love the Attitude Era, because everything was really powerful and the content really mattered back then.
I love the Attitude Era, but it was more so late 80s. I started watching in 1990. I'm still so fond of that time, Steve.
The earlier years,
because you're more impressionable. Like, you're impressionable in your teens as well. But I mean, as a kid, and you're seeing it, and I can't. It has the edge over the Attitude Era. But I take on board what people are saying about the Attitude Era, the promo side, and all that, and you know, that aspect of it. But I just can't. It has to be the late 80s, early 90s into the mid 90s for me personally.
I mean, everything's a personal choice based on how it made.
Absolutely.
You know, that does make sense. Yeah.
How about some matches, Steve? If I was to ask you, I bet there's hundreds, but if we can just whittle it down to a few.
Yeah, I can run off a few. If I was talking about probably my favourite match of all time in terms of how I felt during it and still now watching it, I love Triple H versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2002 in the unsanctioned match. Absolutely. Because there was no right for HBK to be able to do that. He shouldn't have. No. It was a phenomenon. I'm a huge fan of Bret and Owen at WrestleMania 10. You can go, but there's a few sort of hidden gems, I think, in there as well.
Fire him up, Steve. Fire him up. I want to hear him.
Okay. Give me a moment. I loved the what was it? For a start, can I throw a Royal Rumble in there? Because Royal Rumble.
Hey, it's at your discretion. It's at your discretion, mate.
01 and 02, one after the other, I absolutely love for various reasons. The standout reason being 02 when Mr. Perfect came back and did his bit.
You're talking my lingo there. Kurt Hennig all day, mate.
Yeah, I love Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle at King of the Ring, 2001.
Oh my God, man! It's when he didn't go through that pain.
I know, the first time.
You know what I mean? It was like he wanted to give Shane neck issues that he'd had himself.
Yeah, it was like he was passing it on.
It's just like how the hell, it's just, oh my God.
I know, it's amazing. I loved, I was always a big fan of the triple threat between The Rock, Undertaker and Kurt Angle at Vengeance in 2002. I think that's a great example of how a three-way works to perfection. Very much like Lesnar, Rollins and Cena at the Rumble. as well. I'm a fan of triple threats. I love the unpredictability of them.
Absolutely.
If I was going back a little bit further, Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair at Cheetown Rumble is one that stands out for me.
Yes, absolutely, mate. Around the 89.
I love Ricky Steamboat. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Steamboat's work. And I just there is so many. It's hard to actually off the top of your head to go through them. But when you have time and if I had a piece of paper and a notepad now, it'd be full in an hour.
Absolutely.
But off the top of your head, there's so much good content that it's difficult. It's difficult to remember. Obviously, Shawn Michaels Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. I watched on Sunday night actually. That one's always sticks in my mind because I think there was more of a majesty then to kicking out of finishes and things like that than there is now, and that was done perfectly well that night.
I was there for 26. Didn't go to Houston the year before. Unfortunately, we planned to go, and then I was watching it. I was at my cousin's watching it. Absolutely gutted, Steve, because I'd been to 24 the year before. I'm like, why am I sat here? But it was good because I'd grown up watching it with my cousin. But you know the fact that we were going and then people pulled out, and 26 was good, but 25 was a better match. Just to go back to your thoughts on it.
What the difference between 25 and 26?
Yeah, it was different, wasn't it? The way they did it.
It was. I think it's because he'd done so much in 25 that it was hard to give any more than that. So they had to try and put a twist on it. And certainly with the retirement angle, it was more about the result rather than the quality.
Absolutely. So
we'd had the quality in the first match, and now it was like, well, the result really matters because if he loses, then he's retired. So that it takes away from you going, well, come on, give us something new. The more bothered about the outcome. So I think that was quite clever in a sense.
Absolutely. How about shows you've attended over the years? I'd like to find out what you've seen and what you've been to. That'd be really cool to hear.
I've not got a great deal of experience when it comes to live WWE. I've seen 2 shows in my life.
Which
and
ones?
I'm so sad about it. But I mean, I think it's because I went through an era of where I wasn't doing this, and I was a dad. I'm a dad as well. You know, I've got a 15-year-old boy, so I try and put my time into him. I've been to 2 shows, and I remember them both quite well.
Go on, man.
2003, it was Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, which I was happy about. That made it for me anyway. And Edge versus Ric Flair.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So that one I remember, and then I went to one a few years later, quite a lot of years later, which was AJ and Dean Ambrose in the main event, and I think Randy Orton and Rollins as well. It was very, very different shows, but those are the 2 I've been to. My experience of going to shows now is just the independents.
How about that then? Extend some of the independent shows. That's cool, man.
Well,
grassroots, and then obviously. You know,
I'm quite lucky in the sense that because we hire the ring out to other companies that we get to go and watch these shows. We work with Odyssey Pro, and I see a lot of the stuff that they do. I worked at Kingdom of Wrestling and This Is Wrestling, and I get to see these like you get some real gems and matches in these shows that no other people see, and we get to see them up close, and we get to see it in our ring as well, which is fantastic. So a lot of my experience now is I'm almost making up for lost time now because I didn't get to a lot of wrestling back then because I was either trying to work on this business or I was just wrapped up in life.
There's nothing wrong with that, mate. There's nothing wrong with that. You're a family man.
I'm a late bloomer.
Hey, it's fine though. You've done the UK and all that, mate. You know, I haven't been to many UK based shows. I haven't. You know what I mean? But then no, it's nice. It's nice to hear your experiences, man.
Well, I want to go further afield. My plan this year is to get to a few more shows across the country, and rather than just be stuck in the one place, because I do want to get out.
What's whetting your appetite, Steve? Where would you like to go?
I wouldn't mind going and seeing a Progress show. I wouldn't mind going and seeing more TNT stuff. I wouldn't mind going up I wouldn't mind going down south just once, or Birmingham even, and just seeing what's around there. I need to make some time to network a bit more, a bit more broad, because otherwise I'll only know this area, and I think that wouldn't do justice to what we're trying to achieve. I want to see what's going on further afield, get the name out there a bit more.
That's cool, man. That's cool that you want to spread your wings with it. That's cool. That's cool. I think back to the LWF then. I know we said in the opening you got the show coming up. So yeah, just a little bit more on the show coming up. You know, the one that, and then just a bit more on the LWF, I think, mate. Anything else you'd like to add?
The next show is basically it's a fallout from the Lancashire riot, which we had a few weeks ago, which was a massive success. It's our Royal Rumble, basically, but it was for the Women's Championship, first ever. So 15 women were in that match competing for the belt. And then this one is in between that and our biggest show of the year, which is Slamaganza, on April 16th. So this is sort of the last stop before Slamaganza. So we start the Castle Cup quarterfinals at this show, and then the semi-finals and the final are at Slamaganza. Brilliant. And that one's at the Town Hall.
Fantastic.
So this is kind of you need to see this going into the big one, basically. Extend
off into the next shows. How about
no way out almost?
There we go. Yeah, perfectly put. How in relation to tickets and getting tickets for the shows as well, just for the listeners and viewers?
Well, fairly straightforward. Just go to the Facebook page, either the LWF Facebook page or the event page. There's a specific event page as well, and the links are all across there. Anytime I post graphics for the show, the ticket link is on those graphics every time. The same on Twitter as well. I post the links on all the graphics, so there's always a ticket link there. And I advise getting online purely because we do sort of get a lot going on the day with people walking up and paying on the door, so I wouldn't want anyone to miss out. We have, like I said, the last show we were touching 200, and I had to sort of call time on the tickets for that. So they do seem to sell out very quickly in the last couple of weeks, certainly the last week anyway.
Perfect. Testament to you and the crew, man, at the LWF. It's great to hear. Also, before you go, what would be your advice for somebody that wanted to start up a company and be a promoter? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings, because people do talk about trying to do it and get into the business. So yeah, what would be Ste Bibby's tips?
I'll tell you what, that I feel almost fraudulent by saying this because I've not been doing it long myself. But I think first things first, whoever you bring into your promotion, look after them. So, because you want them to come back. And so that goes for show day. If talent are arriving at your building, make sure that they're happy, they're comfortable, that they've got somewhere to go, they've got refreshments and things like that, because you want them to come to you at the end of the night and go, loved it, and if you need me back, please tell me, because I'll always be around. You want that good impression to then be stamped all over everywhere they go from then on. I think I could go very practical and say, if you do a show, like a very first show, and you have equipment for it, this is a very practical tip. This is like a Bella magazine tip or something. When you bring your gear into the building, put it where it's going to be set up. Don't have piles of crap everywhere, because I found that can add about half an hour to the time at the beginning of a show that you could be using to practice and to team talk and things like that. I believe always try and leave a week before a show in terms of being organised. So be organised a week before, so you're not doing everything right up to the last minute. That's increasingly hard with doing a show a month, but I'm working on it. And I think just the main one is the first. Just have some respect for those that are coming to work for you, because I think that gets overlooked sometimes.
Oh, it does, without doubt. I hear all sorts of, it's just you got to respect the respect. Like, I think for the most part, it's just a few, isn't it, that aren't suitable for the business. You're going to get that in any walk of life, though.
I don't know personally of anything like that.
No.
You hear things, and I just do it my way. I'm going off what I do.
Absolutely.
And always take time to sort of talk to people. I mean, I've worked places when I was commentating, when I was first getting my my experience, when I was doing it for nothing, and you walked in and it was like changing rooms back there, and you didn't really get told anything. You just you had to speak to the other talent, and they'd sort of go, I don't know, mate, I'm trying to find out myself.
Yeah.
always have people aware of what's going on from the moment they get to the door.
Absolutely. No, good tips there, Steve. I appreciate you sharing that as well. And yeah, thank you very much for coming on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today. Promoter, owner of Lancashire Wrestling Federation, the LWF. Plenty of shows coming up. Slamaganza in April. Your very own WrestleMania, and obviously the card this coming March as well, leading into that and the tournament. So yeah, thank you so much, Steve.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed that.
Awesome.
That's cool, man. Yeah, gutted I wasn't there for 25, Steve.
Oh no, that's sickening. That. Then again, I mean, I can't say anything. I've not been to bloody any of them, so I would have loved to be 17. I'll tell you that much.
Oh my God, Jesus fucking Christ, man! If I was old enough at the time, do you know what I mean? It was just timing.
Yeah.
But I've been lucky, man. I've done seven, so I've been very lucky. Like, but it's not. It's going to be 6 years this year since I last went. Yeah, like you say, it's settling down and stuff. But I was obviously there for when the Warrior went into the Hall of Fame and that. I was in New Orleans. So
yeah.
But yeah, man, you'll have to try and get to one.
I'll try. I mean, they're increasingly. I don't know whether I want to anymore.
To be fair, yeah, it's a bit suspect in it, and this 2-night thing's ridiculous.
I hate it. What
the fuck are they playing at, mate?
Well, you know what they're doing is they're doing what they've done with other events, and they're diluting it.
Yeah.
It's like with Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, TLC, Money in the Bank. Instead of it being a novelty that is like a big deal, it now happens all the time, so no one really cares as much. And WrestleMania being over 2 nights, it's like, oh well, I might not watch the first night. I'll watch the second.
Dallas wasn't the best place either. I'll tell you now, because we were there for the week. And obviously Texas being as big as it is, everything's like spread out. There wasn't much going on, mate, because my mates were debating going. They've got time off, but they've decided the only thing that was pulling them in was Undertaker getting inducted. You see, but they've decided against going. But New Orleans was fantastic because you can get around everything. And in 2014, Mardi Gras was the week before, so it was still, that vibe was still going. My mates went in 2018. And obviously the way it fell, Mardi Gras was weeks before, and it wasn't the same. But yeah,
I don't think. I personally, my opinion on wrestling, certainly WWE, is it's a bit like I'm totally separate, maybe, but similar points. I'm a Man United fan, right?
yeah.
I've been all my life. I was a season ticket holder for 13 years.
Fair play.
What's happening with us at the moment is I don't think the quality, we don't need to be good anymore because we're still going to make money. We're still going to make tons of money from sponsorships and God knows what else.
It's got validity. It's a business rather than,
Yeah, that's what's happening with WWE now. They know they're going to make money off the advertisers' sponsorships.
They had record turnover, didn't they, recently?
Yeah, so they don't need content anymore.
No.
And I think the content is... I know people always say, well, it's always been about money. Yeah, but the money never overrode what you saw on the screen.
No. They wanted the fans. They were doing it for fans as well as... fucking hell, man. It's like, how many Saudi shows are there going to be? Now they've done the Elimination Chamber there. You know full well, because he pulls in more money off them shows than he does WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't watch them. I stopped watching those, or I didn't really take a great deal of interest anyway when I saw the front row had the back to it. But I don't watch them. I think ever since The Fiend was beaten by Goldberg.
Oh my God, mate!
This is not about the product anymore. This is about and then I just am interested in that.
Steve, what about AEW? I should have asked this in the main interview. I can always add this in.
Well, AEW, it's I think. I'm disappointed in a way because I think they could be taking advantage of this situation better. They're almost messing around a little bit rather than going, actually, this is serious. We could do some real damage here in terms of to WWE, and we could also make a massive wave in the business. And I think they're almost it's almost like a bit of a joke because they have the foundations there. They've got that what I always loved about Monday Night Raw is that haze over the ring and everything from where the pyros are.
Yeah.
And that dirty look, it's too polished and glitzy for my liking now. I don't like it. And AEW looks like I would want to watch that. Yeah, but then I watch the things and I go, I see somebody kicking out of a second rope tombstone at 2. I can't handle that. But I think they've got the right foundations if they just use them in the correct way, and they've got good talent in there. I'd like to see them do really well, and I'd like to see them really put the shits up WWE, to be honest, but I don't know whether that's going to happen.
They can't keep acquiring more talent that have been, been future endeavoured over that, and it's ridiculous. I've said it for ages. The roster's too big now. Rampage will have to be 2 hours soon.
Yeah, well, this is what's WWE. That's why everything's bloody it's long, because there's huge.
I don't know how many more talent they can physically put in now, because people are getting lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
and stuff's getting started up. Storylines are getting started up, and you don't know what's going on. I like it. I like what they're doing. Just some bits I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, I think what they could do with is maybe having sort of a branch into like WWE did with NXT. Maybe they could do is branch in onto like a separate little show. Have more than, because they don't do a lot of short pay-per-views, do they? Which isn't a bad thing. 4 a year?
Yeah. No, less.
Yeah.
Is it 4?
That's not a bad thing. But maybe they could do a separate show to accommodate more of the wrestlers and have more per week or more per month. And then it might work. But if you try to stuff them all onto one show, you've no chance. None of it's going to make any sense at the end of the day. You're just going to have people randomly there for the sake of it.
I was kind of like, why have Punk and MJF had the match? But then I understand they went to TBS. It was about ratings. And then, they've been feuding since like the Thanksgiving bit with the promo. So if you think that's 3 months, I think they should have waited till the pay-per-view. But obviously they've had to do something. And I understand when they switched from TNT to TBS, they needed a ratings poll, didn't they? With them having a match. But then I wouldn't have had them hitting one another and stuff. When it got physical, I was of the mindset, don't have them lay fingers on one another until the match, if you know what I mean. I don't know. There's so many different ways you could do it.
I think subtlety's a dying art. I think sometimes you just got to think of things a little bit and not throw it all in people's faces immediately. But that's me. We are very heavily storyline based, LWF. So everything we do is for a reason. And everything.
Yeah.
I'm very into the woven stories.
No, that's not.
Also, I forgot to mention this.
Mate.
We are doing a quick academy taping on Saturday at our unit, and it's going to be produced like a Monday Night Raw.
Oh, right. Okay. Brilliant.
So there's something in between the big events.
Fantastic, mate. Brilliant.
I want that to flow.
Brilliant, mate. No, fair play. Constantly thinking of stuff. That's great. A huge thank you to Ste Bibby there, the owner and founder of the LWF, and they've got Marching On happening tomorrow, Saturday the 12th of March, so all the best of that, and I'm sure we'll get Steve back on. And a big thank you for Chris Dutton for the editing, as always. A big thank you to Mike Angus as well. I loved doing that little clip with him the other day. And Evade Escape for Get Up and Move in the intro and the outro, as you can hear now. And we'll see you very soon for episode 107.